The message arrived on a Tuesday morning. Ambassador Elena Vasquez was drinking her second cup of coffee when her assistant rushed into her office. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. He held a tablet like it might explode at any moment. "Ambassador," he said, "we have received a transmission from the Galactic Concil." Elena set down her coffee cup. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. Ever since humanity discovered faster-than-light travel and made first contact with alien life, they had been waiting, watching, hoping. The Galactic Concord was a union of over 4,000 spacefaring species. They had governed the Milky Way galaxy for more than 600,000 years. Compared to them, humanity was a baby taking its first steps. Earth was a tiny blue dot on the edge of the galaxy. Nobody important, nobody special. Or so everyone thought. Elena took the tablet and read the message. The translation technology of the Council was flawless. The message was short and formal. Humanity was invited to the Ring of Eternity. They would undergo something called the Proving. If they passed, they would become full members of the Galactic Concord. If they failed, they would be forgotten. Elena smiled. It was not a gentle smile. It was the smile of a woman who had grown up in the slums of Sao Paulo. She had fought for everything she had. She had clawed her way through poverty, through prejudice, through 100 obstacles that should have broken her. She was still standing. "Get me Dr. Chen," she said, "and Captain Tanaka, and Kofi Asante. We have work to do." 2 weeks later, the human delegation boarded their ship. It was called the Dawn of Tomorrow. It was humanity's finest vessel. Fast, sleek, beautiful. But compared to the ships of the Galactic Concord, it was a rowboat floating next to aircraft carriers. She stood on the bridge and watched the stars blur as they entered faster-than-light travel. Behind her stood her team. Dr. Marcus Chen was a xenobiologist. He was 53 years old, with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent his entire life studying life on Earth. Now he would study life among the stars. He was quiet and thoughtful. He noticed things others missed. Captain Yuki Tanaka was military. She was 41 years old, with short black hair and a body made of muscle and discipline. She had served in 3 wars on Earth. She had been shot twice, stabbed once. She had walked through fire and come out the other side. She was not afraid of anything. Kofi Asante was a diplomat. He was 38 years old with dark skin and a warm smile. He could talk to anyone about anything. He could make enemies into friends with nothing but words. He believed in the goodness of all living things. Together, they were humanity's best hope. The journey took 6 days. When they arrived at the Ring of Eternity, Elena understood why it had that name. The space station was enormous. It was a ring of metal and light that circled a dying star. The ring was so large that Earth could fit inside it 10,000 times. It was ancient, it was beautiful, it was terrifying. The Galactic Council has governed from this place for 400,000 years, Dr. Chen said softly. Every major decision in galactic history was made here. "And now we get to visit," Captain Tanaka said. Her voice was flat, unimpressed. "Let's hope they have good food." Their ship docked at a port filled with vessels from 100 different worlds. Elena saw ships that looked like living creatures. Ships made of crystal. Ships that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. The dawn of tomorrow looked like a child's toy next to them. A welcoming party was waiting for them. At the front stood a tall, willowy creature with 4 arms and skin the color of pale silver. She had large black eyes and no visible mouth. When she spoke, the words seemed to form directly in Elena's mind. "Welcome to the Ring of Eternity," the creature said. "I am Counselor Vrethkai of the Silithian species. I will oversee your proving." Elena bowed politely. "Thank you for receiving us. We are honored to be here." Vrethkai studied her with those large black eyes. There was no hostility in her gaze. But there was no warmth either. Just mild curiosity, like a scientist examining a new insect. "Your species is very young," Vrethkai said. "You have only been traveling among the stars for a short time. Most species wait much longer before requesting membership in the Concord." "We are eager to learn," Elena said, "and eager to contribute. We shall see." Vrethkai turned and began walking. The humans followed. The proving is a standardized test. All new species must complete it. It measures your baseline capabilities: cognitive, physical, psychological. Most species score between 15 and 40 points out of 100. "And what happens if we score higher?" Kofi asked. Vrethkai made a sound that might have been a laugh. "That is unlikely. Your planet is listed as a garden world, mild climate, abundant resources. Species from such worlds rarely exceed 30 points. But do not be discouraged. A low score does not mean rejection. It simply means you will be assigned to an appropriate tier within the Concord." They walked through corridors filled with alien life. Elena saw creatures of every shape and size, beings made of light, beings made of stone, beings that floated through the air like jellyfish, beings that crawled on dozens of legs. Some of them looked at the humans with curiosity. Most of them did not look at all. They were not important enough to notice. The humans were given quarters in a section of the station reserved for new species. The rooms were comfortable, but plain. There were beds that adjusted to fit any body shape. There was food that was bland but nutritious. There were windows that looked out at the stars. Elena stood at the window in her room. She could see other ships arriving, other species coming to take their own tests. She wondered how many of them would pass. She wondered how many of them would be forgotten. A knock came at her door. She opened it to find Dr. Chen standing outside. His face was troubled. "I have been reviewing the Council's database," he said. "The information they have about Earth is very limited. They classify us as a garden world. They think we come from a paradise." Elena nodded slowly. "They have never visited Earth. They sent a probe thousands of years ago. It landed in the Mediterranean region during a warm period. It recorded pleasant temperatures, abundant plant life, calm seas." Dr. Chen shook his head. "They have no idea what Earth is really like." "Should we tell them?" Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. "Perhaps we should let them find out for themselves." That evening, the humans gathered in a common area to eat. Other alien delegations were there as well. Most ignored the humans completely, but one did not. He was a Gorvon. His species looked like a cross between a bear and a tank. 8 feet tall, covered in thick armor plates, 4 arms ending in claws that could tear through steel. The Gorvon walked over to the human table and looked down at them. "You are the new species," he said. His voice was like grinding rocks. "The ones from the outer arm." "That's right," Captain Tanaka said. She did not stand up. She did not look impressed. "And you are?" The Gorvon made a rumbling sound. "I am Krathgor. My people have been members of the Concord for 50,000 years. We are warriors. We are strong." He looked at the humans with something like pity. "You are small, soft. You have no armor, no claws, no natural weapons at all." "Appearances can be deceiving," Kofi said with his warm smile. "No, they cannot." Krathgor laughed. It sounded like an earthquake. "I have seen 1,000 species come through these halls. I can tell the weak from the strong with one glance. You will score 20 points, maybe less. You will be assigned to a low tier. You will be forgotten within a generation." He leaned closer. "That is not an insult. It is simply the truth. Some species are meant for greatness. Others are not." He walked away without waiting for a response. The humans sat in silence for a moment. Then Captain Tanaka picked up her fork and continued eating. "I'm going to enjoy proving him wrong," she said. "We shouldn't make enemies," Kofi said gently. "We won't." Tanaka's eyes were hard. "We'll make believers." Later that night, Elena stood alone at the window of her quarters. The stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning. Her home, her people, billions of humans going about their lives, unaware that their entire future was about to be decided. Vrethkai thought they came from a paradise. Krathgor thought they were weak. The entire Galactic Council thought humans were soft creatures from a gentle world. They had no idea. Earth was not a paradise. It was a battleground. A world of earthquakes and hurricanes. A world of predators and parasites. A world where the temperature can swing from burning hot to freezing cold in a single day. A world where everything was trying to kill everything else. And humanity had not just survived on that world. They had conquered it. Elena pressed her hand against the cold glass of the window. She thought about all the struggles her species had endured. The ice ages, the plagues, the wars, the famines. Every generation had faced extinction. Every generation had found a way to survive. They were still here. They would always be here. "They have no idea where we come from," she whispered to the stars, "but they're about to find out." In 2 days the proving would begin, and the galaxy would learn what it truly meant to be human. The testing chambers were older than human civilization. They had been built 400,000 years ago by species that no longer existed. The walls were made of a metal that humanity had no name for. The air smelled like nothing at all. Everything was clean, sterile, ancient. Counselor Vrethkai led the human delegation through a maze of corridors. Other species were being led to their own testing chambers. Elena saw creatures of every shape and size. Some walked on 2 legs, some walked on dozens. Some did not walk at all, but floated through the air like ghosts. "The cognitive trials will begin first," Vrethkai explained. Her voice was calm and professional. "These tests measure your species' mental capabilities, pattern recognition, problem solving, abstract reasoning, adaptability." She paused at a large door made of silver light. "Most species complete the basic tests in 4 to 6 hours. Some require longer." "And some finish faster?" Chen asked. "Very rarely." Vrethkai made a gesture with one of her 4 arms. The door opened. "Please enter. The testing will begin automatically. I will observe from the control room." The chamber beyond the door was enormous. It was filled with strange machines and floating screens. Light moved across the walls in patterns that hurt Elena's eyes to look at. In the center of the room were 4 chairs. They looked comfortable, but also somehow threatening. "1 chair for each of you," Vrethkai said. "The tests will be administered individually, but you may observe each other's progress." Her large black eyes studied them. "Good luck, though luck has little to do with it." The door closed behind her. The humans were alone. "Well," Captain Tanaka said, "this should be interesting." They took their seats. The moment Elena sat down, the chair adjusted to fit her body perfectly. Straps emerged to hold her in place, just tight enough to keep her from moving. A screen appeared in front of her face. Words formed in perfect English. "Cognitive Trial 1, Pattern Recognition." A series of symbols appeared. They made no sense at first. Random shapes and colors and lines. But as Elena watched, she began to see the patterns hiding within the chaos. It was like looking at one of those pictures that seemed random until your eyes adjusted and you saw the hidden image. She tapped the answer. The screen flashed green. Correct. More patterns appeared. Faster now, more complex. Elena fell into a rhythm. Her mind worked automatically, finding order in chaos. It was what humans did. It was what they had always done. Look at the night sky and find pictures in the stars. Look at the wilderness and find paths through the forest. Look at the universe and find meaning in the void. In the chair next to her, Dr. Chen was doing the same thing, but his approach was different. Elena worked on instinct. Chen worked on logic. He broke each pattern down into its smallest parts. He analyzed, he calculated, he found the answer through pure reason. The test monitors in the control room began to notice something strange. The human-designated Chen is processing information at an unusual rate, one of those said. It was a small creature made entirely of crystalline structures. Its voice chimed like bells. His neural activity exceeds baseline parameters. Vrethkai leaned forward. How far does it exceed them? By a factor of 3. The crystal creature paused. That should not be possible for a species from a garden world. Continue monitoring, Vrethkai said. Her voice was calm, but her hands had begun to tremble. In the testing chamber, the pattern recognition trial ended. A new screen appeared. Cognitive Trial 2. Problem solving under pressure. A 3-dimensional maze appeared in front of each human. They had to navigate a small light through the maze to reach the center. But the maze was constantly changing. Walls appeared and disappeared. Paths that were open one moment were closed the next. And there was a time limit. Kofi Asante smiled. This was exactly the kind of problem he loved. It was not about finding the perfect solution. It was about adapting. Changing your approach when circumstances changed. Moving forward even when you could not see the end. He had spent his entire career doing this. Negotiating with governments. Finding common ground between enemies. Building bridges where others saw only walls. The maze was challenging, but it was nothing compared to human politics. He reached the center with 30 seconds to spare. Captain Tanaka finished even faster. She did not overthink. She did not hesitate. She made a decision and committed to it completely. When a path closed, she immediately found another. When the maze shifted, she shifted with it. She was a soldier. She had learned long ago that hesitation meant death. In the control room, the crystal creature's chiming voice had become urgent. The human-designated Tanaka completed the maze in half the expected time. Her decision-making speed is beyond our measurement parameters. What do you mean beyond? Vrethkai asked. I mean our equipment was not designed to measure cognitive speeds this fast. We are detecting decisions being made in fractions of seconds. Hundreds of micro-adjustments per minute. The crystal creature turned to face Vrethkai. Counselor, what kind of world did these creatures come from? Vrethkai did not answer. She was staring at the screens with growing unease. The problem-solving trial ended. A new screen appeared. Cognitive Trial 3. Abstract Reasoning. This test was different. There were no patterns to recognize, no mazes to solve. Instead, each human was presented with a logical paradox, a puzzle that had no solution, a question that could not be answered. The Council had used this test for hundreds of thousands of years. It was not designed to be solved. It was designed to measure how long a species could contemplate an impossible problem before giving up. Most species lasted a few minutes. The strongest lasted an hour. Kofi stared at the paradox on his screen. It was a variation of an ancient puzzle. If a being creates a stone too heavy for itself to lift, can it lift the stone? The question had no logical answer. It was a trap designed to break the mind. But Kofi's mind did not break. Instead, it did something the test designers had never anticipated. It found a third option. The puzzle assumed there were only two possible answers, yes or no. But Kofi saw beyond that assumption. He saw that the question itself was flawed. The paradox was not a lock with no key. It was a cage with no walls. You could not solve it, but you could walk around it. He typed his answer. The question contains a false premise. The being would not create such a stone because the act of creation and the act of lifting are not separate events, but part of a continuous process. The stone is always being lifted, even as it is being created. The screen flashed, not green for correct, not red for incorrect, yellow for something the test had never seen before. Answer: lateral solution detected, unprecedented, flagging for review. In the control room, alarms began to sound, not danger alarms, confusion alarms. The testing systems did not know how to process what had just happened. The human found a solution to the unsolvable paradox, the crystal creature said. Its voice was no longer calm. It was afraid. This should not be possible. Perhaps he cheated, another monitor suggested. It was a gaseous being that floated in a containment sphere. There is no way to cheat on this test. The paradox is generated uniquely for each individual, based on their neural patterns. Vrethkai stood up. Her forearms were shaking now. Something is wrong with our data on the human homeworld. Pull up the full planetary file. I want to see everything. While the monitors worked, the cognitive trials continued. The fourth and final test was the most disturbing of all. Cognitive Trial 4. Psychological Evaluation. This test did not appear on a screen. Instead, it was administered directly to the mind. Each human felt a gentle pressure inside their skull, a presence examining their thoughts, their memories, their deepest beliefs. The test was looking for something specific: cognitive stability, the ability of a mind to remain functional under stress, a level of fear, or confusion, or despair that would cause their minds to stop working. The test was designed to find that breaking point. What it found in the humans was something else entirely. Captain Tanaka's mind was examined first. The test found memories of war, blood, fire, death. It found fear and pain and loss. Any normal mind would have built walls around these memories. Any normal mind would have hidden them away. Tanaka had not hidden them. She carried them openly. She used them. The pain had made her stronger. The fear had made her braver. The loss had made her more determined to protect others. She had taken the worst parts of her life and turned them into weapons against despair. The test moved to Dr. Chen. It found something different, but equally strange. Chen's mind could hold two contradictory ideas at the same time. He could believe something was impossible and still try to achieve it. He could know he was going to fail and still give his best effort. He could see the darkness and still choose to walk toward the light. The Council called this ability cognitive dissonance. Most species could not do it. Their minds were too logical, too structured. The contradictions would tear them apart. But human minds were different. They had evolved to survive chaos, to function when nothing made sense, to keep going when all hope was lost. The test moved to Kofi. It found a mind full of warmth and connection. Kofi cared about people he had never met. He felt empathy for beings he would never know. His mind was not isolated. It was linked to all of humanity, to all of life. Finally, the test examined Elena. It found something the monitors had no name for, a burning determination that refused to die, an optimism that survived every setback, a belief that tomorrow would be better than today. The Council had a word for this trait. They called it irrational persistence. It was only found in species from the most extreme environments, species that had no logical reason to hope, but hoped anyway. In the control room, Vrethkai stared at the planetary file that had finally loaded on her screen. Her silver skin had gone pale. Her four hands were pressed against the display, as if she could not believe what she was seeing. Earth was not a garden world. The data from the ancient probe had been incomplete, catastrophically incomplete. The probe had landed during one of Earth's brief warm periods. It had not seen the ice ages that came before and after. It had not seen the volcanoes, the earthquakes, the hurricanes, the tsunamis. It had not seen the predators, the parasites, the viruses, the bacteria. It had not seen the mass extinctions that had wiped out 90% of all life multiple times. It had not seen the radiation from the unstable sun, the toxic oxygen atmosphere, the crushing gravity. Earth was not a paradise. Earth was a death trap, a world so hostile that survival should have been impossible. And yet life had survived there, evolved there, thrived there. And one species had risen above all the others. One species had conquered that nightmare world. One species had looked at the deadliest planet in the known galaxy and said, "This is home." Vrethkai's hands trembled as she reclassified Earth in the database. The words appeared on her screen in red letters. Warning letters. Earth reclassified. Class 12 Deathworld. Extreme hostility. Do not colonize. Do not approach without maximum protective equipment. She looked back at the screens, showing the 4 humans calmly sitting in their chairs. They had just scored higher on the cognitive trials than any species in galactic history. And they did not even seem tired. For the first time in her 300 years of life, Counselor Vrethkai felt something she had never felt before. Fear. "What have we invited into our halls?" she whispered to herself. But no one answered. In the testing chamber, the humans were preparing for the next trial, and they were smiling. The proving arena was the largest structure on the Ring of Eternity. It was a massive dome that could simulate any environment in the known galaxy. Forests, deserts, oceans, volcanic wastelands, frozen tundras. The arena could create them all with perfect accuracy. Counselor Vrethkai led the human delegation through the entrance. She had not spoken much since the cognitive trials ended. Her large black eyes kept darting to the humans and then away again, like she was afraid to look at them directly. "The physical trials will measure your species' baseline capabilities," she said. Her voice was not as steady as before. "Strength, speed, endurance, environmental tolerance, sensory range." She stopped at a row of monitoring stations. "These tests are purely observational. We simply record what you can do." "Sounds simple enough," Captain Tanaka said. Vrethkai looked at her for a long moment. "Yes," she said quietly. "I imagine it will be." The first test was endurance. Captain Tanaka volunteered to go first. She was led into a large circular room with a smooth floor. The walls were lined with monitoring equipment. "This test measures how long you can remain physically active," Vrethkai explained from the observation booth. "You will run until you cannot run anymore. Most species average between 4 and 8 hours. Tanaka nodded. Understood. She began to run. The monitors watched with mild interest at first. They had seen thousands of species take this test. They knew what to expect. A few hours of activity followed by exhaustion, muscle failure, collapse. After 4 hours, Tanaka was still running. Her pace had not changed. Her breathing was deep and steady. Sweat covered her body, but her legs kept moving with mechanical precision. After 8 hours, the monitors began to whisper among themselves. This was unusual. Most species were unconscious by now. After 12 hours, the whispers became alarmed conversations. Tanaka was showing no signs of stopping. Her body had found a rhythm, a sustainable pace that she could maintain indefinitely. After 18 hours, Vrethkai called for additional medical staff. They scanned Tanaka's body and found something incredible. Her muscles were tired. Her heart was working hard. Her lungs were pulling in massive amounts of oxygen. But everything was still functioning. Everything was still working. "How is this possible?" one of the medical staff asked. He was a creature made of soft pink flesh with dozens of tiny eyes. Her muscles should have failed hours ago. "Human muscles are different from ours," Dr. Chen explained. He had been watching the test with a calm expression. "We evolved as persistence hunters. Our ancestors chased prey across the plains for days at a time. They did not catch their food by being faster. They caught it by never stopping. The pink creature turned all of its eyes toward Chen. You hunted by exhausting your prey to death? Yes, we would chase an animal until its body gave out, until it literally could not run anymore. Then we would walk up to it and kill it. Chen smiled gently. We are not the fastest species on our planet. We are not the strongest. But we are the best at one thing: not giving up. After 22 hours, Vrethkai stopped the test. Not because Tanaka was failing, because their equipment was not calibrated to measure endurance beyond that point. Tanaka walked out of the testing room on her own 2 feet. She was tired. She was sore. But she was still standing. Not bad for a warm-up, she said. The monitors stared at her in silence. No one laughed. No one spoke. They were too shocked to do anything but watch as she sat down and drank a glass of water. The second test was environmental tolerance. All 4 humans entered a special chamber that could adjust its temperature, pressure, and atmospheric composition. They stood in the center while the room changed around them. The temperature rose first. The monitors watched as the air heated to 40 degrees Celsius, then 50, then 60. Most species began to suffer at 30 degrees. At 60, they would collapse. The humans stood calmly. They were sweating. They were uncomfortable, but they were fine. Human body temperature is regulated internally, Dr. Chen explained to the watching monitors. We sweat to cool ourselves. We can survive temperatures that would cook most species alive. The room grew hotter. 70 degrees, 80. At 90 degrees, the monitors stopped the heating process. The humans were still standing. Then the temperature dropped, rapidly. The air went from burning hot to freezing cold in seconds. The monitors expected the humans to collapse from the shock. Instead, they simply began to shiver. Our bodies generate heat internally, Elena said through chattering teeth. We evolved on a world where the temperature could change dramatically within a single day. Our ancestors survived ice ages. The room grew colder. 0 degrees, -10, -20. The humans huddled together for warmth, but they did not fall. They did not freeze. Their bodies kept fighting against the cold. At -30 degrees, the monitors stopped the test. The humans had demonstrated a temperature tolerance range of over 80 degrees. The average for council species was 15. What kind of world has an 80-degree temperature range? The pink medical creature asked in horror. Ours, Kofi said simply. The third test was toxin resistance. This was supposed to be routine, a simple check to see which common galactic substances were harmful to humans. The monitors prepared a series of samples for the humans to ingest. But before the test could begin, Elena produced something from her pocket. It was a small metal container. Inside were brown beans. May I? She asked Vrethkai. The counselor nodded, confused. Elena walked to a food preparation station and began to grind the beans. She added hot water. A dark liquid formed. The smell filled the room. Several monitors immediately began to panic. What is that substance? One of them demanded. Our sensors are detecting a powerful neurotoxin. This is coffee, Elena said. She took a sip. It is a drink we make from roasted seeds. Most humans consume it daily. The monitors stared at her with open mouths. The pink medical creature scanned the liquid with its instruments. Its many eyes went wide. This contains caffeine, it said. Caffeine is a Class 3 restricted substance. It is fatal to 90% of known species. We know, Elena said. She took another sip. It helps us wake up in the morning. The toxin resistance test continued. The monitors presented various substances to the humans. Each time, the results were more disturbing than the last. Alcohol, a powerful solvent that destroyed cellular tissue in most species. Humans drank it recreationally, in large quantities, for fun. capsaicin, a chemical weapon that caused extreme pain and tissue damage. Humans put it in their food. They called it spicy. They had competitions to see who could eat the most. Theobromine, a cardiac toxin found in certain plants. Humans fed it to their children in a form called chocolate. They considered it a treat. Nicotine, a deadly nerve agent. Some humans inhaled it voluntarily, multiple times per day. By the end of the test, the monitors had compiled a list of over 50 substances that were lethal to most galactic species. Humans consumed all of them regularly, sometimes simultaneously. "Your species is immune to poison?" Vrethkai asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Not immune," Dr. Chen corrected. "We simply evolved on a world where everything was trying to poison us. Our bodies learned to process toxins that would kill anything else." The final test was wound recovery. This was designed to measure how quickly a species healed from injury. The standard method was to observe cellular regeneration under controlled conditions. What the monitors saw made them question their understanding of biology. A small cut was made on Tanaka's arm. Painless, clinical. The monitors watched as her blood immediately began to clot. Within minutes, the bleeding stopped. Within hours, the wound had closed. Within 2 days, there would be no scar. "Incredible," the pink medical creature said. "Your cells communicate with each other. They coordinate their response. Your immune system actively hunts invaders." "We have to heal fast," Tanaka said. "On our world, a wound that stays open is an invitation for infection. Every cut could be fatal if we did not close it quickly." The monitors also examined human bone density. They found that human bones were thicker and stronger than expected. When they asked why, Dr. Chen explained. "Earth's gravity is higher than most habitable worlds. Our bones had to be stronger just to support our weight. We also break bones frequently during our lives. Each time they heal, they become denser." "You break your bones frequently?" Vrethkai asked. She sounded ill. "Yes, especially as children. We fall down a lot when we are learning to walk. Most humans have broken at least one bone by adulthood." Vrethkai excused herself. She walked quickly to a private bathroom and did not emerge for several minutes. When she returned, her silver skin had a greenish tint. The physical trials ended. The results were compiled. The numbers appeared on screens throughout the control room. Every monitor stared at them in disbelief. The humans had scored 91 points on the physical trials. The highest score in galactic history was 63. Word began to spread through the ring of eternity. Something impossible had happened. The soft-skinned creatures from the outer arm were not soft at all. They were something else entirely. In a corridor outside the testing arena, Krathgor the Gorvan stood frozen. He had come to watch the humans fail. Instead, he had watched them shatter every record in the database. He looked down at his own massive body, his armor plates, his claws, his natural weapons. He had always believed his species was among the strongest in the galaxy. Now, he was not so sure. A human walked past him. It was the diplomat, Kofi Asante. He smiled warmly at Krathgor as he passed. "Enjoy the show?" Kofi asked. Krathgor could not answer. His mouth moved, but no words came out. He watched the human walk away. So small, so fragile-looking, and yet somehow the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. That night, an emergency message was sent to the chairman of the Galactic Council. It was marked with the highest priority level. The message was simple. "The humans have completed their physical trials. Request immediate council assembly. The galaxy needs to see these results." And far away in her quarters, Elena Vasquez looked out at the stars and smiled. The physical trials were done. Tomorrow would be the moment of truth. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn what humanity truly was. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was the heart of civilization. It was a cathedral of light and metal, built to inspire awe in every being who entered. Thousands of seats rose in tiers around a central platform. Each seat was designed for a different species. Some were filled with water, some were filled with sand, some were simple chairs, some were complex machines that kept their occupants alive. Today, every seat was filled. Word had spread across the ring of eternity. Something unprecedented had happened during the proving. The new species from the Outer Arn had achieved scores that should have been impossible. Rumors flew through the corridors like wildfire. Some said the humans had cheated. Some said the testing equipment had malfunctioned. Some said something far more disturbing. They said the humans were monsters. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood on the central platform with her delegation. Dr. Chen was calm and composed. Captain Tanaka stood at attention, her eyes scanning the crowd. Kofi Asante smiled warmly at every alien who met his gaze. Above them, the council leadership sat in positions of honor. At the very top was a being unlike any other in the chamber. He was made of living crystal, ancient and beautiful, glowing with inner light. His name was Oreth the Undying. He had been chairman of the Galactic Council for 40,000 years. He had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. He had seen more than any other being alive. And in all his long existence, he had never seen anything like the results displayed on the screen before him. Councillor Vrethkai stood at a podium. Her forearms were trembling. Her voice shook as she began to speak. "Honored members of the council," she said, "as tradition demands, I present the results of the proving for the species known as humans from the planet called Earth." She paused, swallowed, continued. "These results have been verified 7 times. They are accurate." The numbers appeared on screens throughout the chamber. Cognitive score, 84. Physical score, 91. Psychological resilience, 97. Composite score, 90.7. For a long moment, the chamber was silent. Then chaos erupted. Thousands of voices shouted at once. Accusations, demands, disbelief. The noise was overwhelming. On the central platform, the humans stood calmly. They did not react to the shouting. They did not show fear or anger. They waited. "Impossible!" a delegate screamed. He was a creature covered in sharp spines. "The highest recorded score in galactic history is 78. This must be fraud." "I demand a full investigation," another delegate shouted. She was a being made of flowing liquid held together by magnetic fields. "The testing equipment must have been tampered with." Silence. The voice that spoke was not loud. It was not angry. But it carried the weight of 40,000 years of authority. Chairman Oreth had risen from his seat. He stood on legs of glowing crystal, and his presence filled the chamber. The shouting stopped instantly. "Councillor Vrethkai," Oreth said. His voice chimed like distant bells. "You said these results were verified 7 times. "Yes, Chairman." "And you found no evidence of tampering? No malfunctions? No explanations for these scores?" Vrethkai straightened. "I found an explanation, Chairman, but I do not think the Council will like it." She pressed a control on her podium. A new display appeared. It showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. "This is Earth," Vrethkai said, "the human homeworld. For thousands of years, we believed it was a garden world, a paradise, a place of gentle temperatures and abundant resources." She paused. "We were wrong." The display changed. New data appeared. Climate patterns. Biological surveys. The numbers told a story that made delegates throughout the chamber gasp in horror. "Earth is not a garden world," Vrethkai continued. "It is a Class 12 death world. one of the most hostile environments in the known galaxy. That's impossible, a delegate said. Class 12 worlds cannot support intelligent life. And yet. Vrethkai gestured at the humans standing on the platform. Here they are. The display showed Earth's environmental data. Average surface temperature ranges from -40 to +50 degrees, depending on location and season. Atmospheric composition, 21% oxygen, a corrosive gas that reacted violently with most organic compounds. Most species cannot breathe oxygen without dying within hours, Vrethkai said. Humans breathe it constantly. They evolved in an atmosphere that would burn our lungs from the inside. More data appeared. Tectonic activity, extreme. The planet's crust was broken into pieces that constantly moved, grinding against each other, creating earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. The ground itself tries to kill them, Vrethkai said, regularly. Radiation exposure, high. Earth's magnetic field was weak and unstable. Solar radiation constantly bombarded the surface. Their sun is trying to kill them, Vrethkai continued. Biological threats, catastrophic. The display showed images of Earth's wildlife. Predators with claws and fangs, venomous creatures, parasites that lived inside other organisms, bacteria and viruses that caused horrific diseases. Everything on their planet is trying to kill everything else, Vrethkai said. Her voice had become quiet, almost reverent. And yet humans did not just survive. They conquered. She turned to face the council. Honored members, I have studied the records of every species that has ever joined the Concord. I have examined the history of every Deathworld survivor. None of them compare to what humans have endured. The display showed a timeline. Mass extinctions, ice ages, plagues, natural disasters that would have wiped out any other species. Through all of it, humans persisted. They adapted. They overcame. Humans are not special because they come from a gentle world, Vrethkai said. They are special because they come from a world that should have killed them millions of times over. Every human alive today is the descendant of countless generations who survived the unsurvivable. They are, in the truest sense of the word, the children of death. The chamber was silent. Every alien in the room was staring at the four humans on the central platform, looking at them with new eyes, seeing not soft skin and weak bodies, seeing survivors, predators, something ancient and terrible and wonderful. Chairman Orith spoke again. His voice was gentle. You knew what you were when you came here, didn't you? Elena stepped forward. She was small, unremarkable, just another human in a galaxy of wonders. But when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of billions. Yes, Chairman, we knew. Then why did you come? Orith asked. You could have hidden what you were. You could have played the role of the weak newcomer. Instead, you revealed yourselves completely. Why? Elena was silent for a moment. She thought about Earth, her home, her people, all the struggles they had endured, all the darkness they had survived. She thought about why they had reached for the stars in the first place. We came here because we were lonely, she said. The words hung in the air, simple, honest, unexpected. We looked up at the night sky and saw billions of stars, Elena continued. We wondered if anyone else was out there. We hoped, we dreamed. We built ships and crossed the void because we wanted to find others like ourselves. Not to conquer, not to dominate, just to find friends. She looked around the chamber. Thousands of alien faces looked back at her. Fear in some, curiosity in others. But she also saw something else, something she recognized. Hope. We know what we are, Elena said. We know we can be frightening. We know our history is written in blood. But we also know something else. We know that kindness is stronger than cruelty. We know that friendship is more valuable than conquest. We know that the greatest victory is not defeating your enemies, but turning them into allies. She stepped closer to the edge of the platform. Her voice rose, not with anger, with passion. My people have been fighting for survival since before we could walk upright. We have faced extinction more times than we can count. And do you know what we learned? We learned that cooperation beats competition. We learned that the only way to survive the darkness is to share our light with others. She spread her arms wide. So here we are, children of a death world, survivors of the unsurvivable. And we have come not to take but to give, not to conquer but to join, not to demand respect but to earn it. Her voice softened. Give us a chance. Let us prove that strength can be gentle. Let us show you that the deadliest species in the galaxy can also be the kindest. We don't want your fear. We want your friendship. Silence filled the chamber. No one moved. No one spoke. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. Then Chairman Orith did something that no one expected. He rose from his seat. He walked down the long stairs from his position of honor. He crossed the chamber floor and approached the human delegation. For 12,000 years, Orith the Undying had not bowed to any species. He was the oldest and wisest being in the galaxy. He had no equals. But now, in front of thousands of witnesses, he bent his ancient crystalline body and lowered his head before Elena Vasquez. I have lived 40,000 years, he said. His voice was barely a whisper. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed horrors and wonders beyond counting. But I have never seen anything like you. He raised his head and looked into Elena's eyes. Welcome to the Galactic Concord, Ambassador. Welcome, children of Earth. Welcome, Deathworlders. He straightened. His voice rang out across the chamber. Let it be known, from this day forward, humanity is a full member of the Galactic Concord. Let no one question their worth. Let no one doubt their place among us. The chamber erupted, not in protest this time, in applause, in cheers, in the sound of thousands of species welcoming a new member to their family. On the platform, Elena felt tears streaming down her face. She did not try to hide them. Beside her, Dr. Chen was smiling. Captain Tanaka stood at attention, but her eyes were bright. Kofi had clasped his hands together, overcome with emotion. They had done it. Not with weapons, not with threats, with nothing but honesty and hope. In the crowd, Krathgor the Gorvan watched in silence. The creature he had mocked and dismissed had just humbled the entire galaxy. He thought about what that meant, about what kind of universe he was living in. For the first time in his life, he felt something new. Not anger, not pride, something softer, something warmer. He felt inspired. And across the galaxy, the message spread. It traveled on waves of light and quantum entanglement. It reached every corner of civilized space. And they want to be friends. Everything was about to change. 6 months had passed since the proving. 6 months since humanity joined the Galactic Concord. 6 months since everything changed. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of Earth's first interstellar embassy. It was a massive structure, floating in orbit above her home planet. Through the windows, she could see Earth spinning slowly beneath her. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds, the most beautiful sight in the universe. And now, aliens were visiting it. A transport ship was approaching the embassy. Elena could see its registration codes. Visitors from the Velkari Collective. A species of small, furry beings who communicated through color changes in their fur. They had been fascinated by human pets and wanted to learn more about the concept of keeping animals for companionship. Elena smiled. In 6 months, Earth had become the most talked-about destination in the galaxy. Every species wanted to see the famous Death World. They wanted to walk on the surface that had forged humanity. They wanted to understand how such terrifying creatures could also be so warm and welcoming. Most of them lasted about 10 minutes outside. Earth's gravity made them tired. Earth's atmosphere made them dizzy. Earth's wildlife made them terrified. One delegation had to be evacuated when they encountered a house cat. The Velkari ambassador had fainted after being shown a documentary about sharks. But they kept coming. Thousands of them. Tourists and scientists and diplomats, all eager to experience humanity's world for themselves. They wore protective suits and stayed in climate-controlled facilities, and never went outside without human escorts. And they loved every minute of it. Dr. Marcus Chen had become the most sought-after xenobiologist in the galaxy. His research on human biology was being studied by scientists on 10,000 worlds. His explanation of the human immune system had revolutionized galactic medicine. His work on human adaptation was changing how the Council understood the limits of life. He was currently in his laboratory, examining tissue samples from a dozen different species. A young alien assistant was helping him. She was a Trilaxian, a species that looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a flower. Her name was Zetha, and she was terrified of him. Not because he was cruel. He was the kindest being she had ever met. But she had seen the data. She knew what humans were capable of. "Dr. Chen," she said nervously, "may I ask you a question?" "Of course, Zetha." "How do you do it?" She wrung her 4 delicate hands together. "How do you stay so calm, so gentle, when you come from such a violent world?" Chen set down his instruments. He turned to face her with his kind, wrinkled face. "Because we had to be," he said. "On Earth, violence without purpose leads to extinction. We learned very early that cooperation was more valuable than conflict. We had to be gentle with each other, because we were surrounded by a world that was not gentle at all." He smiled. "Our kindness is not weakness, Zetha. It is a survival strategy. We are kind because we know how much cruelty hurts. We are gentle because we know how much violence costs. We choose compassion because we have seen what happens when we don't." Zetha nodded slowly. She was still afraid of him. But now she was beginning to understand why humans smiled so often. They had seen the darkness, and they had chosen to be light anyway. Captain Yuki Tanaka had been promoted. She was now Commander Tanaka, head of the newly formed Human Rescue Corps. It was a special unit within the Galactic Concord's emergency services. Their mission? Go where no other species could go. And sometimes terrible things happened in terrible places. Ships crashed on hostile worlds. Mining colonies collapsed on high-gravity moons. Research stations failed on planets with toxic atmospheres. Before humanity, there was often nothing anyone could do. The rescue teams could not survive the conditions. The victims were left to die. Not anymore. Tanaka led her team on missions that would have been suicide for anyone else. They walked through burning heat and freezing cold. They breathed poisonous air. They fought against crushing gravity. They went into the darkness and brought people home. The galactic media called them heroes. Tanaka did not like the word. She was just doing her job. The job humans had always done. Survive and help others survive. Kofi Asante had become the most famous diplomat in the Concord. His ability to find common ground between enemies was legendary. He had resolved conflicts that had lasted for centuries. He had built bridges between species that had never spoken to each other. His secret was simple. He listened. Most diplomats talked. They argued. They tried to win. Kofi just listened. He let people tell him their fears and hopes and dreams. He found the things they shared. He reminded them that they were all living beings in a vast and lonely universe. "We are all children of the stars," he would say. "We all want the same things: safety, happiness, connection. If we focus on what unites us instead of what divides us, peace is always possible." It sounded naive. It sounded idealistic, but coming from a human, it carried weight. Because everyone knew what humans had overcome. Everyone knew what humanity was capable of. If the Deathworlders could choose peace, anyone could. The galaxy was changing. Human culture spread like wildfire across civilized space. Human music, with its complex rhythms and emotional depth, became phenomenally popular. Human literature, filled with stories of hope and perseverance, touched beings who had never known such struggle. Human food was more controversial. Coffee became the most valuable legal stimulant in the galaxy. Species that could tolerate caffeine paid enormous prices for authentic Earth-grown beans. Those who could not tolerate it just watched the coffee drinkers with horrified fascination. Chocolate was even more popular. A Silithian merchant had made a fortune importing Earth chocolate to his homeworld. He had become the richest being in his system, all because humans like to eat a mild poison for pleasure. And then there was alcohol. The Galactic Concil had officially classified human alcoholic beverages as recreational toxins. This did not stop aliens from trying them, usually once, usually followed by several days of medical recovery. But perhaps the most surprising export was human optimism, the belief that things could always get better, the faith that tomorrow would be brighter than today. It was irrational, it was illogical, and it was spreading. Species that had lived in despair for generations were discovering hope. Cultures that had accepted decline were finding new energy. Civilizations that had lost their way were remembering why they had once looked up at the stars. The Deathworlders had brought something to the galaxy that it desperately needed. Not weapons, not technology, not power. They had brought heart. On the observation deck of the embassy, Elena watched a shuttle descend toward Earth. It carried more alien visitors, more curious beings wanting to experience the famous Deathworld for themselves. Footsteps approached behind her. She turned to see Krathgor standing there. The massive Gorvon looked different than he had 6 months ago. The arrogance was gone from his posture. Something softer had taken its place. "Ambassador," he said. His rumbling voice was almost gentle. "May I join you?" "Of course, Krathgor." He stood beside her, looking down at Earth. His 4 arms were clasped behind his back. "I owe you an apology," he said. "When you first arrived, I mocked your species. I said you would be forgotten. I was wrong." "We all make mistakes," Elena said. "What matters is what we do after." "Yes." Krathgor was quiet for a moment. "I have been thinking about what you said in the council chamber, about strength being gentle, about the deadliest species being the kindest." He turned to face her. "I have lived my entire life believing that power meant domination, that strength meant making others afraid. And now? Now I am not sure." His massive shoulders slumped slightly. "Your people terrify me, Ambassador, not because of what you can do, but because of what you choose not to do. You could crush us, any of us, all of us. And instead, you offer friendship." Elena reached up and placed her small hand on his massive arm. The contrast was almost comical. Her soft skin against his armor plates, her tiny fingers against his massive limb. "That's what strength really is," she said. "The power to destroy and the choice not to. The ability to take and the decision to give. Anyone can break things. It takes real strength to build them." Krathgor made a sound deep in his chest. It might have been a laugh, or it might have been something else. "I came here to ask a question," he said. "My people want to send exchange students to Earth, to learn from you. Would humanity accept them?" Elena smiled. "We would be honored." Later that evening, Elena stood alone on the observation deck. The stars burned bright and cold in the endless dark. Somewhere out there, human ships were exploring. Human diplomats were negotiating. Human scientists were discovering. Human soldiers were rescuing. Her people were spreading across the galaxy, not as conquerors, as helpers, as friends, as something the universe had never seen before. Dr. Chen joined her. He looked tired, but happy. His research was changing the galaxy, and he was exactly where he wanted to be. "They're still scared of us, you know," he said. "I see it in their eyes. Even after everything, they're still afraid." Elena nodded. Fear takes time to fade, but fear can become respect, and respect can become friendship, and friendship can become love. "You really believe that?" "I have to." Elena pressed her hand against the cold glass of the window. "We didn't survive Earth by being alone. We survived by being together. That's what we'll teach them. That's what will show the whole galaxy." Chen smiled. "You sound like Kofi. I'll take that as a compliment." They stood together in comfortable silence. Above them, the stars beckoned. The galaxy was vast and old and full of wonders. It had seen empires rise and fall. It had witnessed the birth and death of civilizations. It had existed for billions of years before humanity took its first steps. But now everything was different. Now the Deathworlders had arrived, small and soft and seemingly fragile, terrifying in their resilience, unstoppable in their determination, infinite in their capacity for kindness. They had come from a world that tried to kill them every day. They had survived against impossible odds. They had reached for the stars because they refused to believe that the darkness was all there was. And now they were changing everything. Not through conquest, not through fear, through something much more powerful, through hope. The stars had always seemed cold and distant, but now, with humanity walking among them, they felt just a little bit warmer, a little bit closer, a little bit more like home. And this was only the beginning. In laboratories across the galaxy, scientists were learning human secrets. In council chambers, diplomats were adopting human methods. In rescue stations, first responders were following human examples. In homes and schools and temples, ordinary beings were reading human stories. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they had not come to take. They had come to give. They had come to teach. They had come to show the galaxy what it truly meant to be alive. And the galaxy, slowly and wonderfully, was beginning to understand. Elena looked out at the stars one last time. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were looking back, some with fear, some with hope, all with the knowledge that nothing would ever be the same. "We made it," she whispered. "After everything, we made it." Dr. Chen put a hand on her shoulder. "We did more than make it," he said. "We found our family." Elena smiled. The tears came, but she did not mind. They were good tears, happy tears, the tears of a species that had finally found its place in the universe. The humans were home, and they were never going to be alone again.